Hello. Hi there. Hi everyone. Okay, I'm super excited to do this Q&A. I didn't do one last week because we were actually on a hiking trip up Mount Robson and I was suffering my pants off. We actually hiked about 50 kilometers in 3 days, which is crazy. It was a huge sufferfest. It was the first hiking trip of the season, which is very aggressive. I do not recommend it, but it was totally worth it. Beautiful, just absolutely stunning. I've never seen views quite like that. Mount Robson is a beast of a monster of a mountain, and it's got all these glaciers on it, and then the lake below it is completely turquoise. So it was really, really beautiful. Anyways, so if this is your first time joining me live, my name is Kendra Perry. I'm a functional diagnostic nutritionist with a focus in healthy guts and female hormones. I also like to talk a lot about detox. And today I am answering your questions. So thank you to those who submitted your questions. And if you have questions for me for our next Q&A, typically I do them every Thursday at 4:15. Next Thursday, I am away. I'm going to be on the west coast of Canada doing another trip. So in 2 weeks from now, I will be doing the next Q&A. So if you have any questions you want to ask me, you can submit them by commenting on this video. You can send me a message through Facebook, or you can email my assistant, support@kendraperry.net, and I'll make sure that that gets answered on air. Okay. So I had some really, really interesting questions get asked, and I had one question that was asking about thyroid inflammation. So this person was told that their thyroid was inflamed, and she's wondering, well, why is my thyroid inflamed? Okay, so there's a few things that will cause a thyroid to be inflamed. One of the biggest ones is actually gluten. So there's this really interesting dance that goes on between gluten and the thyroid. Okay, so it's really interesting, but the protein in gluten has a really, really similar structure to the protein in thyroid. So sometimes when you're eating gluten and you're reacting to it, the immune system gets sort of like overactive and it goes on this search and destroy mission, and it ends up attacking the gluten, but also things that resemble the gluten. And sometimes that is the thyroid. So sometimes the thyroid is inflamed because of gluten sensitivity. So anyone who has a thyroid issue, if you have an inflamed thyroid, thyroid nodules, Hashimoto's, hypothyroid, hyperthyroid, Graves' disease, absolutely you need to get off the gluten, get off it. Okay. Thyroid and gluten are not friends. They do not go together. So definitely make sure to go strict gluten-free, not just sort of gluten-free, 100% legit gluten-free. Okay. Another thing that may cause the thyroid to be inflamed is iodine deficiency. Iodine is a really interesting mineral. I would say it's a controversial mineral, but I see iodine deficiency in so many women that I work with. And the thing about iodine is it's actually what you use to make thyroid hormone. Okay. So iodine is a very important part of thyroid hormone, and there's actually receptors for iodine in every single cell in the body. And when people get iodine deficient, there's something weird that happens with iodine deficiency that tends to lead to inflammation, but also the growth of nodules or even cysts. Iodine deficiency can actually cause fibrocystic breast disease or fibrocystic breast. It tends to cause this kind of uneven tissue and this overgrowth of tissue. Okay. And so iodine is probably very much involved in thyroid inflammation. Definitely make sure you're eating really high quality kelp. I recommend Nature's Way. I think that's the only company I recommend. I know that it's been tested to be free of metals. Sometimes kelp can be very toxic. So don't just eat any kelp. I like the Nature's Way because it's actually pretty affordable. And that's a good way to get iodine into your life. Iodine is actually a topic I'm pretty passionate about, especially when it comes to thyroid issues. Iodine has completely changed my life and my energy, and I'm using it a lot with clients now. And I actually determine iodine deficiency based on hair mineral analysis. But I do want to, a lot of you guys have been asking me about the iodine protocol that I do with people. So I do want to share it with you. So I'm probably going to do a masterclass coming up on iodine deficiency and the iodine protocol that I typically recommend. But the best way to get good results with the iodine protocol is to run hair mineral analysis with me, because then I can actually determine based on that test, like how we should be doing that iodine protocol, because you do need to work on your selenium levels and get your selenium levels up if you want to have, if you want to react well to that iodine. Okay. So I'm getting off track. I'm totally, getting off track here as always. But so with thyroid inflammation, I would be thinking about gluten. I'd be thinking about iodine deficiency. I'd also be thinking about selenium. Selenium very much protects the thyroid and especially protects it from inflammation. Selenium is a very, very important mineral. So if you have thyroid issues, I definitely recommend supplementing with selenium. I recommend the selenomethionine, the yeast-free type. And you want to do at least 200 micrograms a day. So about 200 micrograms a day. You can also eat Brazil nuts. Brazil nuts are actually a really potent, like super potent source of selenium. So those are those like big fat nuts. So you can eat a couple of those a day and that would actually help you with your selenium levels as well. So I see that there's a few of you guys on live right now. So if you have any questions, just dump it in the comment box and I'd be happy to answer it. Okay, so another great question. This actually is from a lady that I've been working with for a little while now. And she's wondering, what does health look like when you finally get to a good place? Like, will I have to take supplements and drink salt water forever? Okay, so this is a really good question. And people really want to know the answer to it. And, you know, it's not the easiest answer to give because it really does depend on the person. Each person is very uniquely different and we all heal at different rates. Also, it's impossible for us to know how deeply rooted our issues go. And we only tend to know how deeply rooted things are as we uncover it over time and as things come out as we work together. So this is the thing with health. We live in a world that is very bad for our health, right? We are constantly exposed to chemicals. We have a lot of stress. You know, we have a lot going on in our environment in terms of toxicity and chemicals and metals and stress and EMFs and all these things. There is a lot of things working against us. We have a lot of things stacked against us. And so, you know, I think when it comes to health, it is a long-term process and it is a lifelong journey. I don't think especially if we've gotten to the place where we felt really sick and we feel really terrible, or even if we've had some sort of disease or condition, we're never really going to be able to go back to how we were doing things before. We have to make this big lifestyle change and we have to always be staying on top of things and always be taking care of ourselves and always be seeking to maintain better health. So does that mean that you're going to have to be on like 20 supplements and drinking significant amounts of salt water forever? Well, not necessarily. Okay. So, you know, when I was really sick, I'll use myself as an example. You know, when I was really not doing well, when I was really struggling, I was taking a shitload of supplements and I was drinking a ton. I had to be really on top of my sea salt water. I had to really be on top of my diet and my stress levels and my sleep because I was so sensitive to it. Even, you know, if I forgot one supplement, if I didn't miss out on 1 hour of sleep, if I got a little too stressed out, like this would just decimate my energy levels and I would feel like a big, you know, sack of crap. But as I've gotten healthier, my energy levels have come back. Like I can actually tone it down quite a bit. Like I can miss drinking, you know, sometimes I forget to drink my water and I'm not as good with my hydration, or I stay up a little bit later and I don't get as much sleep, but it doesn't affect me the way that it used to. Like I have a lot more leeway to kind of like make mistakes and not be super on top of it. I also don't take as many supplements. So I think it just depends. And I know that I can't just ever go back to just never doing those things and like forgetting about hydration, never taking maintenance supplements, going to bed at 2 a.m. and, you know, being stressed out and running around like a chicken with their head cut off, right? Because that's going to eventually, if I continue with that, it's eventually going to lead to the return of the experience that I was having before. So we can get ourselves to a place where, yes, we don't need to take as many supplements, where we can make more mistakes, where maybe we can indulge sometimes and like have a dessert or have a little bit of gluten or whatever it is. I think it's absolutely possible to get there. But we're never going to be able to go back to where we were before, because that's going to bring us back to the symptoms, the sickness, the disease that we were experiencing in the past. So health is a lifelong journey. So if you decide to go on this journey with me or another practitioner, like understand that it's not a quick fix. It is a lifestyle and we have a lot of things stacked against us. So we do always need to be thinking about it. We always need to be thinking about, you know, detoxing, our bodies and making sure we're reducing stress and, you know, getting enough exercise and eating well and trying to stay away from those foods that we know are bad for us. So this is going to be really important. It is a long-term journey. I wish we could just forget about it and that wasn't the case. But yeah, there's a lot of things going on in this world that really do prevent us from being healthy. But the good news is we can get our body to a point where we don't have to be as strict and as crazy and as consumed with it as we do when we're really sick and we're pulling ourselves out of the ditch. Okay, so I hope that answers that question. Okay. The next question is a really good question as well. And I actually wasn't sure how to answer it at first, but it made me do a little bit of research. So thank you for helping me learn. But how do you detox from tattoos? Really good question. So a lot of people have tattoos. I actually have a little tramp stamp on the bottom, on my back, that I got when I was 16. Terrible choice. But of course I was 16. I didn't give a fuck, right? Anyways, so with tattoos, like, it's putting ink into your body. And so I did a bit of research, and what I found is that how they color the ink in tattoos, they actually do that with minerals and metals. So I have a little list here. So red ink, they use mercury. For yellow, green, and white, they use lead. Cadmium makes red, orange, yellow. Nickel makes black. Zinc makes yellow and white. Chromium makes green. Cobalt makes blue. Aluminum makes green and violet. Titanium makes white. Copper makes blue and green. Iron makes brown, red, and black. And barium makes white. So that's really, really interesting, because pretty much almost everything there, mercury, lead, cadmium, nickel, cobalt, titanium, aluminum, copper, iron, barium, can all be toxic. These are all toxic metals that we're actually putting in our skin to make that tattoo. So if you do have a tattoo, you have been exposed to toxic metals. So that's a really good, or not a good sign, but a bad sign that you've been exposed to some of these metals. So how do you detox from tattoos? So I actually did a video, I believe it was last week, on detox. It's called Detox is a Dirty Word. Check it out. I talk a lot about detox and the things you shouldn't be doing and the things you should be doing. But with any metals, the most important thing to do is actually to get your minerals balanced. So if you've got tattoos and you're interested in detoxing from the metals that you were exposed to, let's run a hair mineral analysis. That's really going to help with that. But also you can take binders. Binders actually bind to toxic metals and help move them out of your system. So my favorite is Pectosol C, and I actually have some right here. I keep it on my desk. You can get it from either Econugenics or Clinical Synergy. Either one, it's basically the same product. It's just a different label. But this is the modified citrus pectin. It is the rind of citrus fruit, and it actually binds to almost every metal. It's really good at binding to lead and cadmium and aluminum especially, and it will pull those metals out of the body, take it on an empty stomach, dissolve it in hot liquid. I usually put it in my tea in the morning, and kind of stir it up, because it doesn't really dissolve well in cold water, and it just gets clumpy and it tastes like crap. So this is my favorite. I also recommend zeolite. Zeolite, I wonder if I have zeolite in front of me too. I don't think I do. Zeolite is a negatively charged sort of mineral ion, and actually will bind to some of the negatively charged metals. So zeolite is a really good way to get metals out. I also like chitosan, which is derived from shellfish. So do be careful. If you have a fish allergy, do not take it. And then activated coconut charcoal is another really great binder. So I would be getting on some binders. I'd also be getting in a sauna, just like the one behind me. Sweat it out. A lot of metals come out through our skin through sweating. So we do need to sweat. So get in a sauna, whether it's infrared or just the sauna that's at your gym. Any of that can actually help with detoxing metals. If you do have a lot of mercury in your body, so if you have a lot of red ink in your tattoo, you may have a lot of mercury, and one of the best ways to get mercury out is selenium. And so mercury actually displaces selenium. So having mercury in your body can actually make you selenium deficient, and that's going to affect your thyroid, but also your detox. So if you suspect you might have mercury in your body, I would be doing some selenium at 200 micrograms a day. So yeah, I've never really thought much about tattoos. But this is a really good question. And I think based on this, I actually don't recommend getting tattoos. I was always thinking about covering up my tramp stamp and turning it into something that wasn't so trampy stampy. But now I think I'll just leave it. I don't think I want any of the stuff in my body. I've always actually wondered, what was actually in the ink. So that's really interesting. But yeah, so definitely if you have tattoos, you have been exposed to metals. So I do recommend that you do a mineral detox with me. So guys, if you have any questions for next week's, or not next week's, in 2 weeks, because I'm away next week, 2 weeks time Q&A, send me a email, support@kendraperry.net, send me a Facebook message, comment on this video. let me know, and I will get it answered. If you want to ask me about hormones, about detox, about minerals, about gut health, or about anything in general, I'm more than happy to answer your questions. And if you want to learn more about me, if you're interested in running a hair mineral analysis with me and taking the most amazing step you possibly can with your health, my website's kendraperry.net, or you can just send me a Facebook message through my page. I check that regularly, and we can chat about it. So I hope you guys have a great Thursday and a great weekend. I hope you get some sun, and I hope you have a lovely sleep tonight. Bye, guys.